Okay, welcome everyone. We want to thank thank you. We want to thank everybody for rearranging their schedule this evening to accommodate the shir as we broadcast here from the sands in the 5 towns. My son Nehemiah and daughter-in-law Rivki are being honored by the girls' school here, B'nai Space Yaakov, with the Kesser Shem Tov Award, and Baruch Hashem, we are sitting in the bridal suite, and we are all brides of the Torah, so we all belong in the bridal suite, and we are sponsored by Abus Spry for the schus of the soldiers, for their protection, for the protection of Klal Yisrael, the recovery of the hostages, and the refuah shalema of all the cholim. We are sponsored by Shimon Klein, Lilu Nishmas Asher Anshel Ben Yehuda, Gittel Bashim and Pinchas. We are sponsored by Irving Fishbaum, Refuah Shalema for Issa Ben Razel and Eliezer Ben Razel, and we for Meir Ben Chayasar. They should have a Refuah Shalema b'Seich Shar Cheli Yisrael. And Baruch Hashem, the boards are lighting up here. I'm very happy that so far we already have 22 Zoomers joining us for our shir this evening. And we are holding at the 2 dots, which is 5 lines from the bottom, as we finish tonight what has been a very difficult parak, and we start the new parak this evening, and let's get right to it as we welcome in Michal Avram, holding down the fort in the Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev, and Saba, and we welcome in Jay Siegelman, Harrison Kletzel, and Irving Fishbaum, Aaron Swade, Eddie Chazan, Shimon Klein, Berish Kesselman, A.B. Spry, Mo Kushner, and Nachman Chapler, Yitzi Fuchs, and Yitzi Fuchs we bring in, and we bring in Yitzhak Muller, and we bring in Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg and Rebbe Zepkowitz, Ilya Shutman, Abe Arbach, Rabbi Kranz, and here we have Moshe Lehman, as we have now 25 Zoomers already this evening. We welcome in Sandy Grunfeld, David Helfgott, who I believe is here somewhere, and so the Gemara now says. The video is very choppy. It says that you have network bandwidth is low by you, and sometimes the audio cuts out. I hear. That's not too good. I'm not sure if I could do much about that.
Rabbi, if you turn off your video, it might help.
Yeah, you think so?
And also, if you can plug into an Ethernet, you probably Wi-Fi.
Yeah, well, if you want to come down here and get me an Ethernet, that's fine. Let me see. Maybe I should stop the video. How is it now? Is it better?
Well, we all hear it.
Yes, the audio. Hopefully, the audio won't cut out.
I think it is better. It's much better than it was.
Okay, everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so let's learn Torah. That's the main thing. That's what we're here for. Tan Rabbanan, as we are 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Kuf Tes Amud Beis. Tan Rabbanan, minayin l'kayin sheba u'makriv karban isav. How do we know that a kain could come and offer his karbanos b'kol eis u'b'kol shasha yirtza? at any time that he wants. Talmud Loimar, Pasuk tells us, no, what am I doing? We're not up to Daf, I'm sorry. We are up to Daf Kuf Yud Amid Beis, correct? So I almost tried to pull a trick on you. We're up to Kuf Yud Amid Beis by Amar Abaya.
I think we're up to 8 lines from the bottom of the base.
I just said Amar Abaya. Amar Abaya, which is 7 lines from the bottom. Amar Abaya Shmamina, from the fact that it says that in the event that if, let's say, Chatzkel returns the theft and then he dies, so they don't bring the Ashim after his death because Ein Kapara Achamisa, but the heirs cannot reclaim the theft that Chatzkel returned. Because, okay, he returned the theft before he died. That shows that when he returns the theft, it accomplishes at least halfway the atonement. Because if it's a set, and without the Ashim it doesn't achieve anything, Havamina, then I would, the Eloi Mechaper Havamina Mahadali Yarshim. I would think that the heirs should be able to claim back the theft. My timer. Why? Adaita dahachi lo yavle, because they didn't give it if there's not going to be atonement. Again, if the money was given, and then 1 second. Right. In other words, in the event that Chatzkel gave the money to the people of the Mishmar, and then he died, and so they can't bring an Ashim because ain't kapara achamisa. So it must be that the money that Chatzkel gave before he died, that he returned the theft, it must be that achieves at least some atonement, half the atonement. Diloi mechaper, because if it doesn't achieve atonement, havamina mahadali Ashim, that the mishmar should return it to the heirs. My timer. Why? Because adaita dahachi lo yavle, the nifter did not give it if it's not going to achieve any atonement. So the Gemara says, Elamiyata, if that's the case, a sin offering whose owner died before he got a chance to offer it. Now the din is, whose owner dies, the din is that it goes l'misa. The din is that it has to die. But why don't we say, well, it should revert to chulin? We should say, tefik l'chulin. It should revert to chulin. Why? Because he didn't give it, he didn't dedicate the chatas if it's not going to affect the atonement. So it should be hektish b'tais. So the Gemara says, no. There it's halach l'moshe misinai. There are 5 chatas that die halach l'moshe misinai. And one of them is a chatas shemeisa baleh. Imrei chatas shemeisa baleh hilchas gemirala. That's halach l'moshe misinai delamisa azla. That it has to die. Elamata asks the Gemara, Oshim Shemeisu Balav. Now, the din is that a guilt offering whose owner dies, since there's no kapara after Misa, we let it pasture until it gets a mum. But why do we do that? We should say he didn't dedicate it if it's not going to achieve kapara. He didn't separate it that if he's not going to get kapara from it. Says the Gemara, no, an Ashim is also halach l'moshe misinai. Ashim nami hilchas gemirula. A guilt offering is also halach l'moshe misinai. When we learn kachim, we'll see that this is a familiar halach l'moshe misinai, that in any analogous case where a chatas dies, an Ashim is set to pasture. Kol shebechatas mesa, wherever a chatas dies, and we know if the owner dies, the chatas has to perish. But Ashim Raya, it's halach l'moshe misinai that a guilt offering is left out to pasture. Elameata.
We can't see you.
I know, I turned off the video so that the sound should be clearer.
Oh, okay.
Elameata says the Gemara, Yavama shenafla lifnei muka shchin. Let's say Ruvain married Sarah, and Ruvain died childless. Sarah falls to Yibam, to Shimon, who is a muka shchin. His whole body is riddled with boils. Tefik beloy chalitza. She should go out without chalitza, because we should say retroactively that she never went into a marriage if there would be a chance that she would fall to such a deformed person. With that in mind, she wouldn't have accepted Kedushin initially from Reuven. Says the Gemara, no. There we say that a person is willing to take a chance, because a woman doesn't want to be alone. A woman doesn't want to live alone. Hasam, Anan Sadai, there it's as if we have witnesses, which is a Gemara's phrase, as there we know, she's willing to accept Kedushin in the beginning on the chance that there could be a possibility that she could fall to a mukashkin. Why? Because a woman wants to have companionship. She's desperate for the companionship. As the Gemara says, Tav l'meisiv tandu, she would rather live two bodies, l'meisiv amalu, than to live alone. A woman would rather live two bodies, l'meisiv amalu, than to live alone. Now the Mishnah says, Nasan es hakesef lo yorav. If, let's say, there's a situation where our robber of last night, the well-known, renowned bandit Nachman, when he stole from Abi, so he gave the money to Yorav. Remember, Yorav is the first Mishmar, the first division, and Yedaya is the second division. Now that's the correct order. So he gave the money first, and then the Ashim. That's what you have to do. You have to return the theft, and only then bring the guilt offering. Tan Rabbanan, what about if Nachman messed up? Nasan Ashim lo Yorav, he gave the guilt offering to Yorav, so he did it out of order. The kesef liyadaya, and he gave the money to the second mishmar. So says the Gemara, well, Yedaya should return the money to Yehoyarav. Yazer kesef eitzel oshim. Yedaya should return the money to Yehoyarav, so that then they could do it in the correct order. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The Chacham say no. Over here, Yehoyarav was in the wrong, because Yehoyarav had no right to accept the Oshim before the money was given. So therefore, Yehoyarav, the first Mishmar, they messed up. They shouldn't have accepted the carbon before the money. So therefore, Yazer Oshim Eitzel Kesef. They should therefore correct it by giving the guilt offering to Yedaya, the second Mishmar, and then they'll bring it right. The Gemara says, hey Chidami, what's the case? If Nachman gave the Ashim of Yoyarav during the Mishmar of Yoyarav, in other words, it was during their Mishmar, and they gave the Ashim to Yoyarav, the kesef liyadaya, and the money to Yedaya, b'mishmarta the Yedaya. Why would Rabbi Yehuda, in his right mind, say that Yedaya should return the money to Yehoyarav? For sure, Yedaya got the money during its Mishmar, and Yehoyarav made the mistake of taking the Ashim first. Why should Yedaya return the money to Yehoyarav? That doesn't make sense. Rava says, Hachabamay Askinan, Diyav Ashim Yehoyarav b'mishmarta Yehoyarav. What happened was, Nachman gave the guilt offering to Yoyarav, that's the first Mishmar, during the Mishmar of Yoyarav, V'kesef liyadaya, and gave the money to Yadaya b'mishmartoi di Yoyarav. In other words, Nachman gave the money to Yadaya the second week while it was still the first week. So now, everybody did wrong over here. Yadaya had no right to take the money from Nachman because it wasn't yet their Mishmar. Yoyarav did wrong by taking the Oshim before the money, but since Yadaya had no right, hold on, Rabbi Isaiah, as we experience technical difficulties over here. Let's see, we're gonna, okay. Having technical difficulties over here.
Looks like the Rav got disconnected.
I'm here now. Can everybody hear me? Rabbi Kranz, can you hear me?
Is it just me?
No, it's not just you.
No, it's not you.
Can everybody hear me now?
No,
Yes, the Rav is back.
Okay. It seems to be that the band over here is not that strong, unfortunately. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, so Amar Rava, Hachabamayas, here what we're talking about is, and while I was working over here, I lost the Facebook connect. Oh, it's here. Rather, Amar Rava Hachabamayas, Diyav Oshim. Remember, Yoyarav is the first week, and Yedaya is the second week. So Rava says Hachabamayas, where everybody did wrong over here. Diyav Oshim lo Yarav. Nachman gave first the Oshim to Yoyarav. Now, he shouldn't have given the Oshim first. You're supposed to return the theft first. But he gave the Oshim to Yoyarav, b'mishmar to the Yoyarav, during Yoyarav's watch. V'kesef liyadaya, and he gave the money to Yadaya the second week, but it wasn't the second week yet. It was still the first week, b'mishmar to the Yoyarav. So Rabbi Yehuda says, look, Yedaya had no right to take the money because it was still Yoyarav's week. Kaven the lav ishmeres Yedayahu, liyadaya kansinolay. We penalize Yedaya and tell him to give back the money to Yoyarav. Hilkach yaz kesef echel asham. The Rabbanan, however, they penalize Yoyarav. You shouldn't have taken the asham from Nachman before you took the money. The Rabbanan savi shaloi kedin hu avid b'nei Yoyarav. They did incorrectly. The kiblu ashim mekame kesef. They took the ashim before the money. Hilkach lididu kazinalu. They penalize Yoyarav and they tell him, look, now that Nachman already gave the money to Yedaya, give the ashim to Yedaya. V'yazer ashim eitzel kesef. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. I'm a Rebbe. L'divrei Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, im kadnu b'nei Yoyarav. V'krivu esa ashim. If in this situation where Nachman gave the ashim to Yoyarav and the money to Yedaya, and the mishmar of Yoyarav already offered the ashim, so then Ya'azav v'yavi ashim acher, Nachman has to bring another ashim because they offered the ashim before Nachman gave the money. He has to bring another ashim, v'yakrivu b'nei Yedaya, and then b'nei Yedaya offers the ashim, v'zacha alalu b'meshe b'yadin, and Yedaya gets to keep the money that they have. Says the Gemara, when it says v'zachu halalu, and when v'zachu halalu, meaning and the mishmar of Yoyarav keeps the ashim that they offered, the first ashim. V'zachu halalu b'meshe b'yadin. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. what's the Asham worth? It was disqualified because it was brought before the money. What's it worth? What do you mean there's Zoich in it? Says the Gemara, Imrei Lamai Chazu, what's it worth? Asham Pasalo. It's a disqualified Asham because it was brought before the money was given. Says the Gemara, it's worth the hides. They could use the hides. Amarava la'ayrai. They could use the hides. Now, by the way, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, Tanya, Amar Rebbe, L'divrei Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Im Kayim Ashim, if the Ashim is intact, so we said, Yarzer Ashim Eitzel Kesef. We say that we return the Ashim to the one that has the money. And that means that we say that the Bnei Yehorav have to give the Ashim to the people of Yedaya. Says Gemara, but Rabbi Yehuda says the other way around. Rabbi Yehuda Yazer Kesef Eichel Ashim Islay. Rabbi Yehuda says that no, to the contrary, we penalize the second Mishmar Yedaya because they took money when it wasn't their time to have the money. They took the money when it was still the Mishmar of Yorav. Says the Gemara, you know what we're talking about over here? Kigain de Nafik Mishmar to Yorav. What happened is Nachman gave the Ashim to Yorav during the Mishmar of Yorav. He made a mistake. He gave the Ashim first. Then he gave the money to Yedaya while it was still the Mishmar of Yorav. But the Mishmar of Yorav went through the whole week, v'loi tavu, and they didn't ask the Mishmar of Yedaya for the money. They didn't ask the Mishmar of Yedaya for the money. They forgave it, and therefore now that they forgave it, then if the Ashim was not yet offered, they should give the Ashim to the Mishmar of Yedaya. Tanya Idach, went in another brayso. Amar Rebbe L'divrei Rabbi Yehuda Im Kaimu Ashim, if the Ashim is still around, Yazer Kesef Eitzel Ashim, then they should return the money to the Ashim. Now the Gemara says, well, Pshita, that's the opinion. Hachi Islay, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda holds that since the Mishmar of Yedaya did wrong, and while it was the Mishmar of Yorav, they took money during their Mishmar, so they did wrong by taking money when it wasn't their Mishmar, so they have to return the money to the Mishmar of Yorav so they could bring then the Ashim. Says the Gemara, no, here, Hachavamayas Kigain de Nofik Mishmartim Dahani Vahani. Both passed. It passed the Mishmar of Yorav. They didn't bring the Ashim. They didn't claim the money from Yedaya, like they could have. And it passed the Mishmar of Yedaya, and Yedaya didn't claim to get the Ashim from Yorav. Now what do we do? Kigain de Nofik Mishmartim Dahani Vahani, V'loi Tavu, Mao the same Achule Gabe Hadadi, that they were moichel each other, Kamash Malan, Damrinon Kavan Deloi Tavi, if neither one made a claim, Lahadru Beresha, it should go back to the original din, and the original din, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is if Nachman gave the Ashim first to Yorav, and he gave the money to Yedaya while it was still the Mishmar of Yorav, that we say that Yedaya has to return the money to Yorav, and then that's the way it stays now, even if both weeks passed. Now, we learned that you cannot bring the guilt offering before you return the theft. Remember what this is talking about? It's talking about where Nachman ripped off a ger, and the ger died, so he has to give the theft to the Kohanim of the Mishmar, and he has to give the guilt offering. So he has to return the theft before the guilt offering. Shamevi gezeloi acheloi hevi hashamai. If he returns the theft before he brings the guilt offering, yotza. But if he brings the guilt offering before they returns the theft, lo yotza. Minani mili. How do we know that this is the order? Amar Rava de Amar Kra ha'osham hamushav lashem. The guilt offering. Now here, when it says ha'osham in the pasuk, it means the principal payment. What Nachman stole from Ger. Because the pasuk will also say the animal, the carbon, it says mevad el hakipurim. So when it says ha'osham hamushav la'Hashem l'kayin, the principle which is returned to Hashem by giving it to the kayin since the ger died, milvad el hakipurim, besides the ram of atonement, asher yechaper by. Michlal, since it says osham first, michlal the kesef v'reisha. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabban l'Rava, Elameata. You're saying that milvad besides means that it happens after? Elameata milvad oilas habayker. It says that you bring the musaf besides the oilas habayker. Does that mean that the musaf comes before the carbon tamid shel shachris? Hachanami mechlal the musafim bereisha? That the musaf comes before the tamid of shachris? Vatanya, we learned in the Braisa, how do we know that nothing precedes the tamid of the morning? Tamid leimer v'arach aleha, you range on the mizbech, ha'ayla, that's a heya yediyah, ha'ayla, v'amar Rava, ha'ayla, ayla rishayna, that's the first carbon of the morning. Amalei, he says, you're right. The raya isn't from milvad el hakipurim. The raya is from the fact that it says in the plural, asher yechupar by, which you receive atonement. Yechupar is in the plural. Remember, yud makes it plural. Oz sharloi nemer el oz yosher. Asher yechupar by, that's the plural. That means that the oshim is brought afterwards. Amalei anome asher yechupar by nafkalei. Vadayin loy keeper. And therefore, when you return the oshim, you didn't yet have the kapara, so you have to return the theft first. Now, the same thing is true if let's say, let's pick a likely villain. Look how innocent Shimon Klein looks. He's like trying to duck out of the picture even. Shimon, if he's moyel behektish, if he trespasses an item of hektish, then he has to pay what he benefits. He has to add a fifth, and he has to bring a guilt offering called an Oshem Me'ila. Now, Tan Rabbayim, Menayim Shim Hevi Me'ilasai V'loi Hevi Hashamai. How do we know that if he brings his Mila, but he doesn't bring the guilt offering, Hashama V'loi Hevi Me'ila, or it brings the guilt offering, but he doesn't pay what he benefited from Akdish, Shelo Yatza, that he doesn't fulfill his requirement, Tamaloimer Be'el Ha'asham, he brings the ale, the animal, and Ha'asham, and the principle, V'nislach Loi, and it's forgiven for him. U'manayim Shim Hevi Hashamai, Ad Sheloi Hevi Milasai. How does he know that if he brings the carbon before he pays for the benefit, Shelo Yatza, Talmud Leimer Be'el Ha'asham. Now, it says the ram Ha'asham of the principle that he already paid. Ha'asham Bikfar. That's the guilt offering that he gave from before. Now, Yachol Kashem Sha'ayil V'asham Mi'akfin. I might think that just like the principle and the carbon is indispensable, I might think Kach Chaimish Ma'akiv. So also the fifth is indispensable. The animal and the principle, and he's forgiven. Only the animal and the principle is indispensable. But the fifth is not indispensable. We learn out something about hektish, about Mila, from the case of Gezel Ager. The Hedyet Mehektish, and we learn out something about Gezel Ager from Me'ila. Hektish Mehedyet, we learn out Mila from We learn out. See, I better plug in the computer before I lose everybody here. I need a technician over here. I'm going to lose everybody. That's not good. Okay, now we won't lose anybody. Baruch Hashem, says the Gemara. And I thank you, Rabbi Isai, for putting up to me in all the moving around and everything tonight. Says the Gemara, Hektish Mehedyet, we learn out Mila from Gezel Hager, Ma Oshim Dahasim, just like by Gezel Hager. When it says Oshim, it means the principal, Karen. Af Oshim Dahacha, so also Oshim by Mila, when it says Oshim V'nislach, it only means the principal, Karen, not the fifth. And we learn out V'hedyet Mehektish, we learn out Gezel Hager. From Hektish, Ma Hektish, Ein Chaimish Ma'akev, the fifth doesn't invalidate, it's not indispensable. Af Hedyet Nami by Gezel Hager also, Ein Chaimish Ma'akev, the fifth is not indispensable. Hadron Allah HaGoizel Eitzim, Hadron Allah HaGoizel Eitzim, Hadron Allah HaGoizel Eitzim. And we could say that with a lot of kavanah, that we all need to return to this very difficult parak, and learn it better and better as many times. We say we want to get back to it at least 3 times. Now we start the new parak. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes,
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. It's, we're making it. Now, we know, I just want to familiarize you with a few things. We know that there's such a thing as yish. That means it depends. We're stealing from Abi, he seems to be the victim over here. Is Abi still here? I think maybe he ran away. I don't blame him. We're stealing from him so much, but when we steal, so who does Nachman steal from? Oh, I know he's running away. Nachman steals from Eddie Chazan, so it makes a big difference if Eddie is miyayish, if he gives up or not, because it's easier to acquire it if he is miyayish. Another thing that it makes a difference is whether we say there's shina rishus, because with shina rishus and yish, then it's acquired. And then it doesn't have to be returned. So, in the case where, let's say, Nachman steals it, and Eddie gives up hope, and Nachman sells it to Dr. Yudel, so there's clear Yish and Shina Rishus. On the other hand, if Chatzkel steals it from Eddie, and Chatzkel dies, and Chatzkel's children inherit it, whether Yerusha is considered Shina Rishus or not, that's a question. And that we're going to talk about in the ensuing Gemara. So now let's see the Mishnah inside. Hagoizel, if let's say Chatzkel steals, Umachel esbonav, and he feeds it to his children, or Vaniach lefneim, or in the event Chatzkel dies, and he leaves it to his children as a Yerusha, Peturim Milishalim, they don't have to pay. However, now the Gemara is going to suggest 2 possible definitions. Either it can mean if it's something that has the father's name on it. Let's say it's an expensive camel, and people say that's Chatzkel's camel, so then Chayavim L'Shalom, they have to return it because of the covet of their father, because it's embarrassing to their father that people say, oh, that's the camel that the father stole. That's one pshat. Another pshat is, if their father left them in the estate, karka, since there's a lien on the karka, because it was stolen from Eddie, and Eddie had a lien on the karka, then chayavim l'shalom. Then the heirs, the Chatzkel's children have to pay from the estate of the father. We'll see in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to say both of those opinions. Rav Chisda tells us, Gazel v'loy nisyashu abaylim, if Chatzkel stole from Eri, and Eri never gives up hope, ubo achar v'ochloi, and then after Chatzkel stole, Nachman eats it. So who does Eddie collect from? Chatzkel because he stole it, or Eddie who ate the stuff? So the Gemara says Eddie has a choice. Ratzim is Egaiv. He could steal from Nachman because he wasn't Miyayish. A Ratzim is Egaiv. He could steal from Eddie because it was still his and Eddie ate it. My time, what's the reason? As the Gemara says, Kol kama deloy nisyashu abaylam, as long as Eddie wasn't miyayish, he didn't despair, b'reshusei demarekai, it's still in his reshus. Says the Gemara, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hagoyzel u'machles banav, if Chatzkel steals and gives it to his children, or v'haniach lifneim, or they inherit it, p'turim l'shalim. So you see that if he gives it to his children, the children don't have to pay. But you said if you want, you could collect from Chatzkel. If you want, collect from Nachman. To Yufta, the Rav Chisda. And Rav Chisda says, no, it's talking about over here after Yish. Amalach Rav Chisda, our Mishnah kitan yahila acha Yish. Oh, once Eddie is miyayish, it's different. So the Mishnah says, if the thief, if Chatzkel leaves it to the children, so the din is that they don't have to pay. Now, what do we have over here? We have over here that Eddie was miyayish, and it was left to the children. So that if they don't have to pay, that means that Yerusha is considered Yish V'Shina Rishus. Amar Rabbi Bachama, Zoy Meres, Rishus Yoresh Ki Rishus Lekeach Dami. That shows, so Gedalia is telling me now, I just heard from Gedalia that I'm breaking up. Am I breaking up, Rabbi Say? Hello?
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were. You're better now.
Should I stop? Should I stop my video again?
I think try that. I would.
I hear it clear.
Okay, now how is it? Is it better now?
It's better now. But
I don't know if the stop me video really helped. We had that problem before too, but it makes sense that it should help.
Okay, let's keep on going. Says the Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah, if Chatzkel steals it, and the children are Yairish, and it's talking about where Eddie was already Miyayish, P'tur Milashalim. So we see that inheriting it to the children is like selling it to someone else. This proves that Rishus Yoresh Kirishus Lekeach Dami. That the ownership of an heir is like a buyer. Just like a buyer is considered Yish V'Shina Rishus, so an heir is also considered Shina Rishus.
Rabbi Weiss.
Yes.
Rabbi Weiss.
Yes. I'm listening.
Move the MiFi a little bit.
I don't have the MiFi.
MiFi a little bit to a different, closer to the end of the room. Maybe you'll get a better.
Are you here in the sands?
No, I'm not.
You see, somebody brought me a
MiFi straight into your computer.
You know what? Somebody brought me the MiFi, and I told them I didn't need it because I had already the hook up here in the sands. If the person could bring me back the MiFi, it would be a big help. Hello?
Okay, I'm going to talk. Okay, I'm going to bring it back. Okay.
Now.
Yes, I'm going to get it back to you.
Okay. So anyway, says the Gemara, Rava Amar, no. Rishus Yaresh Lav Kirishus Lekech Dami. It's not enough that Chatzkel stole it from Eddie. Eddie was Miyayish, and Chatzkel died. That's not enough of a Shina Rishus that it was passed down to heirs, because Bra Karadavua, son is an extension of the father. But V'hacham B'mayaskinan Kisha Achlam. Oh, that also after it was inherited by Chatzkel's children, they ate it. Says the Gemara, but Hamediktani Seifa, since it says in the Seifa in the Mishnah, Im Hayadav Sheyesh Bayachrayas, if it's something that has achrayas, which usually means if it's karka, Chayavim L'Shalem. So if you're talking about where it's karka, Mechlal Dereisha B'Gezela Kayemes Askinan. Doesn't that imply that it's talking about where the Gezela is intact? Says going, no. Amalach Rava Hachi Kamer. Im oniach lahem avim achrayas nechasim. If the father left them karka, if the father left them karka, then Eddie could take from the karka because Eddie has a lien on that karka. Chayavim l'shalem. Says the Gemara, but v'ham masnalei Rebbe l'Reb Shimon Berei. Rebbe taught to Reb Shimon Berei, lo davar sheyesh b'achrayas mamish. It doesn't mean that the father left karka. Elafilu, remember I told you another pshat. It means that if the father left something that his name is on, elafilu para v'chayrishba, a cow that he was plowing with, chamoru mechamer acharav, a donkey that he leads it. So there people say, oh, look at the cow that your father stole. Look at the donkey that your father stole. Chayovim lahalzim ipnei kavod avim. So it seems to be that we're not talking about where the father left karka for Eddie to collect from. Elama Rava, so Rava says there's taka two pshatim in the Mishnah. Ki shachivna Rav Aishia, when Rav Aishia passed away, excuse me, Ki Shachivna, Rava says, when I pass away, it's interesting that he used such a lashon. Normally, al tiftach peh satan. Ki Shachivna, he says, when I depart, when I lie down to the next world, Rabbi Aishya Nofik, Rabbi Aishya will come out to greet me. The Toritzna Masnisan Kavase. Because he had interpreted the Mishnah according to me. Not that it's talking about where he leaves something that has the father's name, but rather the Tani Rabbi Aishya, Hagoizel Machal Esbanav, if one steals and feeds his children, Petura Milashalim, they're part from paying, because of course it's after Yish. Haniach Lifneim Gezela Kayemes, if they leave Gezela which is intact, Chayavin, because as we said, the Gzela is intact, Yish and Yerusha is not considered Yish and Shina Rishus. Eina Gzela Kayemes, if the Gzela is not intact, because they ate it, Peturim. Haniach lahem aviyam achrayas nechasim. But if the father left karka, where Eddie can say that he has a lien on the father's karka while the father was still alive, then chayovim l'shalom, then he has to pay. How was that? You were able to hear that last part? Hello, everybody?
We lost the audio, Rebbe.
Well, for how long?
Last, I don't know, about 35 seconds.
Oh boy, that's no good. That's no good. I should say it over again then. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, Baruch Hashem.
Yes.
So then I should, let me say over the last part. It's hard to say share this way. Don't worry. When
You're in and out.
Okay, I'm going to say over the last part of the Gemara again, so bear with me. I'm going to say over the last part of the Gemara again. Let me just get the place over here. In Florida, tomorrow night, when Shir is back to 8 o'clock, I will have a special modem, so it should be much, much better. And Shir is regular time at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and we will have Michal Avram, Ruvain Shanit. They will be setting it up in Yetz Hashem. And Motzei Shabbos Shir is 7:30. Special time this Motzei Shabbos, because in Hollywood, Florida, I'm giving a Shir at 9. So Shir Motzei Shabbos is 7:30. You'll have an early night. And we will start again. We will back up. Can you hear me now?
Yes, when you're in Florida, test out your connection for 5 minutes with someone before you go live.
Okay. El Amar Rava, Ki Shochivna, when I pass away, Rava said, Rab Oishia Nofik Levasi, Rab Oishia will come to greet me, the Teritzna Masni San Kavase, because I will explain the Mishnah like him. I explain the Mishnah like him. The Tani Rav Oishia, Hagoizel Umachles Banav, if you steal, if Chatzkel steals, Umachles Banav, and he feeds his children, P'turim Elishalem, because remember, the Eddie was already Miyayish, and he fed the children, so they're part from paying. Honiach Lefneyem, if he left it to the children, Gzeila Kayemes, if the Gzeila is intact, Chayavim, because we don't say that Rishus Yoirish is Kirishus like Kayach, and therefore it's not considered a Shina Rishus, and therefore they have to pay. Eina Gzela Kayemes, if the Gzela is not intact, Peturin, they're part from paying, because then of course it's Yish and Shina Maisa, it was eaten, so therefore they don't have to pay. However, if the father left karka, so therefore the Eddie had a lien on the karka from the lifetime of Chatzkel the thief, then chayavim l'sham, then he's chayiv to pay. Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, yes,
Okay. Okay, now we're going to do the Mishnah. Don't go anywhere.